Have you ever felt a spark with a woman and wondered if she's feeling it too, but couldn't quite tell? Today, I'm going to reveal the 3 subtle signs she's already feeling desire. And trust me, the third one happens right under most men's noses. How many times have you walked away from an interaction, replaying it in your head? Did she like me, or was she just being polite? This isn't about you being bad at reading women. It's about the fact that nobody ever taught you how attraction actually looks. My name is Sarah Jones. Because attraction, from a woman's side, is rarely loud. It's subtle, it's layered, it's emotional before it's physical. If you've ever felt like you were almost there with someone, that uncertainty is exactly where most men lose the opportunity. Men often experience attraction in a direct, forward-moving way. But for many women, attraction doesn't work like that. It unfolds slowly, carefully. Script. She first checks the emotional environment. Do I feel safe here? Do I feel seen? And only when those conditions begin to feel right. Does attraction start to reveal itself. But here's the part most men miss. Women don't announce attraction. They whisper it. And those whispers show up in the smallest details. Body language, eye contact, tone, proximity. Moments so subtle that if you're not paying attention, you'll miss them completely. But once you learn to see them, everything changes. Suddenly, interactions that once felt confusing start to make sense. You begin to notice patterns. You begin to understand what's actually happening beneath the surface. And more importantly, you stop second-guessing yourself. So let's start with the first signal. Not the obvious kind. Not the kind you expect. I'm talking about touch. But not just any touch. I'm talking about those small, seemingly insignificant moments where a woman touches you without a clear reason. This isn't accidental. It's not the same as a casual pat on the shoulder or a polite gesture. It's subtle, yes, but it's intentional at a subconscious level. Let me paint a picture for you. You're in a conversation. Maybe you're both laughing about something, and as she responds, she lightly touches your arm, just for a second. But then, she leaves her hand there just a fraction longer than necessary. Not long enough to feel obvious, but long enough that something in your mind registers it. That moment, that extra second, is incredibly important, because that's where comfort lives, and comfort is the foundation of attraction. When a woman feels uncomfortable, her body does the opposite. She creates distance. Her movements become controlled. Her gestures stay contained. There's a kind of invisible boundary she maintains. But when she feels curious, when she feels safe, when something begins to pull her in, her body starts to relax. And that's when touch begins to appear. Sometimes it's playful. She might tap your arm when she laughs. Sometimes it's almost nurturing. She adjusts your collar, brushes something off your sleeve. Sometimes it's directional. She gently guides you through a crowd, placing her hand lightly on your arm. None of these actions scream desire, but together, they form a pattern, and patterns are everything. Let me share something real with you. A man once told me about a moment at a birthday party. He met a woman there, and the conversation flowed effortlessly. They joked, they laughed, everything felt natural. At one point, she reached out and brushed something invisible off his sleeve. He didn't think much of it. Later, she touched his arm again while laughing, and again, when making a point. Each time, just for a second, nothing dramatic. Months later, they reconnected, and during a conversation, she said something that stayed with him. She said, "I kept touching your arm because I was trying to see if you felt the connection too." And he missed it, every single time. And this is where I want you to pause and really reflect. How many moments like that have you experienced, but didn't recognize? If something like this has ever happened to you, type the word touch in the comments. Not just for engagement, but because awareness begins when you start naming your experiences. Now here's something fascinating from psychology. When attraction begins, the brain releases certain chemicals, like oxytocin, often called the bonding hormone. This chemical increases feelings of trust, connection, and emotional closeness. And one of the ways it gets activated? physical touch. So when a woman lightly touches you during conversation, she may not even consciously realize why she's doing it. Her body is simply responding to a feeling of comfort and leaning into it. But remember this carefully. One isolated moment doesn't mean everything, but repeated behavior tells a story. If she finds multiple small reasons to touch you during an interaction, that's not random. That's her body expressing interest in a language that words haven't caught up to yet. And when you begin to recognize that language, you stop missing the moment. Now let's move into the second signal, and this one is even more powerful because it doesn't happen through touch. It happens through her eyes. You've probably heard the phrase, "the eyes are the window to the soul." And while it may sound poetic, it's also deeply psychological, because human beings communicate an enormous amount of emotional information through eye contact: interest, curiosity, attraction, discomfort, trust. And when a woman begins to feel desire, something shifts in the way she looks at you. Not just how often, but how. Most men assume attraction looks like constant staring. It doesn't. In fact, it's much more subtle than that. It's a rhythm. She looks at you. She holds your gaze, just a moment longer than expected. Then she looks away, maybe downward, maybe to the side, and then, a few seconds later, she looks back again. That pattern, look, soften, glance away, return, is one of the quietest and most powerful signals of attraction. And the most fascinating part? It's not controlled, it's automatic. When someone feels genuine interest, their nervous system responds in ways they can't easily fake. Her eyes soften, her focus deepens, her attention becomes more present, and suddenly, the interaction feels different, more personal, more connected. Let me give you a moment you've probably experienced before, but didn't fully understand. You're sitting across from a woman. You're talking about something meaningful, and as you speak, she looks at you with a kind of gentle focus. She smiles slightly, then shyly looks down, then back up again, and it keeps happening. And something about it feels magnetic, like the world around you fades just a little. That feeling? That's not in your head. That's connection forming in real time. I'm going to reveal the third signal, the one almost no man notices, the one that changes everything when you finally see it. And once you understand it, you'll start noticing it everywhere, so don't go anywhere. Now let's continue, because what I'm about to share with you is the signal that changes everything, the one most men completely overlook, the one that quietly separates missed opportunities from real connection. And it has nothing to do with what she says. It has everything to do with space. When a woman begins to feel genuine attraction, she often does something very specific. She creates privacy where there wasn't any before. Now think about how most social environments work. At a party, people stay in groups. At a restaurant, conversations happen across tables. At work, interactions are often shared, structured, and public. There's always some kind of collective space. But when a woman starts to feel something deeper, she begins to gently step outside of that shared environment. Not dramatically, not in a way that draws attention, just subtly enough to create a moment that belongs only to the two of you. And this is where most men miss it, because it doesn't look like a move. It looks like something small, something ordinary, but psychologically, it carries meaning. Imagine this. You're standing in a group conversation. Everyone is talking, laughing, exchanging ideas, and suddenly she turns to you and says, "Hey, come here for a second. I want to show you something." It might be something simple, a photo, a drink at the bar, a random comment she lowers her voice to share. But what just happened in that moment? She created a microspace, a small environment where it's just you and her. No audience, no distractions, just connection. And this is incredibly important, because attraction often needs space to grow, especially for women. That small shift allows her to observe you more closely, to feel the interaction more personally. to see how you respond when the dynamic changes. Do you become more present? Do you stay relaxed? Do you lean into the moment or pull away from it? These moments aren't tests in the way people often imagine. They're invitations, a quiet way of saying, let's see what happens if we step a little closer. Let me tell you a story that illustrates this perfectly. A man once told me about an engagement party he attended. There were about 30 people in the room, music playing softly, everyone talking, celebrating. Throughout the evening, he had casual conversations with a woman he had just met. Nothing intense, just light, easy interaction. Then at one point, she leaned toward him and said, "Hey, come see this photo album over here." Now here's the interesting part. The album wasn't special, just some travel pictures. But when they stepped away from the group, everything changed. The conversation became more personal, more relaxed, more focused. They talked longer than expected, and later he realized something important. The album wasn't the reason, it was the excuse. She simply created a private moment, so the connection could deepen. And this happens far more often than you think. Sometimes it's suggesting a short walk. Sometimes it's grabbing coffee together while others stay behind. Sometimes it's lowering her voice and leaning slightly closer. Each of these actions reduces distance, and when attraction is present, distance naturally begins to shrink. But here's the key insight I want you to remember. When a woman creates that moment of privacy, she's watching how you respond. Not to judge you, but to feel you. Do you stay grounded? Do you remain calm? Do you engage without forcing anything? Because one of the most attractive qualities you can have is presence, not performance, not trying too hard, just being fully there, comfortable, aware, engaged. Attraction grows best in that kind of energy. Now I want you to pause for a second. Think about your own experiences again. Have you ever had a moment where a woman pulled you slightly aside, asked you something quietly, suggested doing something together, even though others were around? If yes, there's a strong chance you were witnessing this exact signal. And if you missed it at the time, that's okay. Because now you'll start seeing it everywhere. And if this is starting to open your eyes a little, take a moment right now, like the video, and make sure you're subscribed to the Female Signals. Because this is just the beginning of understanding how attraction actually works beneath the surface. Now let's bring everything together. Because understanding these 3 signals, touch, eye contact, and the creation of private moments, changes the way you experience connection entirely. But here's something very important. This is not about manipulation. It's not about learning tricks or techniques. It's about awareness. Because when you become aware, you stop guessing. You stop overthinking. You stop trying to force something that may or may not exist. Instead, you simply recognize what's already there and respond to it naturally. Let me explain what I mean. When she touches your arm, you don't need to analyze it like a detective. You just stay present. When she holds eye contact, you don't need a perfect line. You meet her gaze, you smile, you continue. When she creates a private moment, you don't rush it. You don't try to escalate too fast. You simply enjoy it. Because here's the truth most people miss. Simplicity is attractive. People are drawn to those who feel easy to be around, not those who are trying to impress. Think about your best conversations, the ones you actually enjoyed. They weren't forced, they flowed. There was ease, there was comfort. That feeling is one of the strongest foundations of attraction. And when you combine that with awareness, something powerful happens. You move from confusion to clarity, from guessing to understanding. And that shift creates something most men are searching for: calm confidence. Let me share one more story with you. A man once told me he believed for years that he was terrible at reading women. He thought attraction was something mysterious, something only naturally charismatic people understood. But one day, something changed. He was sitting at a cafe. A woman nearby started a conversation. Nothing special, just simple interaction. But this time, he paid attention. She touched his arm lightly while laughing. She held eye contact and smiled. After a few minutes, she said, "Do you want to sit over here? It's quieter." And in that moment, he noticed something he had never seen before. All 3 signals, right in front of him. And instead of overthinking, he stayed present. They talked for nearly an hour, and later he said something that perfectly captures everything we've discussed today. He said, "For the first time, I didn't feel like I was trying to make something happen. I just noticed what was already happening." That is the real shift. That is where confidence comes from. Not from saying the perfect thing, but from understanding the moment you're in. Now, before we close, I want to give you something practical, a small challenge. The next time you're in any social environment, a gathering, a cafe, even work, slow down, observe more. Notice who turns toward you. Notice who maintains eye contact just a little longer. Notice who finds small reasons to continue the interaction. These signals are happening constantly. Most people just don't see them, but you will, because now you know what to look for. And if this video gave you even one moment of clarity, take a second right now and write the word whispers in the comments. Because that's what these signals are, whispers. Not loud, not obvious, but incredibly meaningful when you understand them. And if you want to go deeper into female psychology, attraction, and emotional intelligence, make sure you subscribe to the Female Signals and turn on notifications. Because the more you understand these patterns, the easier connection becomes. And the next time you notice that lingering touch, that soft returning gaze, or that quiet moment where she creates space just for you, pause, stay present. Because those small, quiet moments might be telling you something important. And now, you finally know how to hear them.